Hello, my name is Charles, and in today's video, I had a bit of an interesting idea in terms of what I think the solution would be for our society. I think I think the system we in America at least. So in America, the system right is it's like a capitalist system, and the capitalist system has like a bipartisan government essentially that is like a democratic republic. And I think the way we get more good people, right? So the first, and this is going to be just my theory on how to solve society at large, like structurally speaking. So if right now, right, or where do I start this? Basically, the system is set up right now with capitalism as it is, that the motive is essentially maximizing profit. Now, how does this turn ordinary, mostly good people who are trying to do their best in life, to in tough spots, right, where they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't? And how this works and what we need for the solution, right, is based on, like, I'll use this example to illustrate how a solution of a well-being based economy would work. So right now, let's say you want to buy an electric car, and you're like, I think it'd be super great for the environment to buy an electric car because I don't want to, affect the environment. I want to, reduce my carbon emissions, and I don't want, global warming to affect, the environment. I don't want to, right? You want to be eco-friendly. So let's say that's your goal. And so you're like, yep, I'm dead set. I'm going to buy an electric car. But then the night before you buy the electric car, you find out that a majority of the batteries, the way they're gathered, requires slave labor, because the companies who are making the electric cars, well, the only way they're able to make those electric cars at the prices they do to maximize profit is by using slave labor in foreign countries. So then we wind up in a bit of a pickle where we're like, well, if I buy the eco-friendly car, which is eco-friendly, I support slave labor. And there lies the issue, where you can either hurt the environment and get the regular old car and just pollute it because you're like, that's the only other thing that's affordable, or you get the eco-friendly car and you're like, well, now I'm supporting slave labor. And you're an ordinary person. You're not doing anything wrong. It's just the incentives in the system are set up in such a way where that company who's making the electric car or making the ordinary gas-powered car is driven by a profit motive, and that is going to affect the well-being of society, of people, and the environment at large in a negative way, right? And so that's where we have to be like, okay, how could we have a well-being based society? And in terms of like America, now let's suppose, right, for food, we'll use food as an example of what I mean by how do we have a well-being based food system? Well, let's suppose, we had some general understanding of, what foods contribute to health and well-being and what foods don't. So we'll use, the easiest example, McDonald's. We know McDonald's is most likely not good for you. So the government would heavily tax, or egregious tax towards McDonald's. So McDonald's is no longer a viable option. And, food choices that are healthy are either subsidized or helped out. And this would mean that all our available choices, right, even if you are an ordinary person and you want to have your cheat meal, you want to enjoy yourself, even the unhealthy options in this system would be somewhat healthy. You'd be eating at least like organic food or something, and they'd be reasonably priced. This is how we do it. We create money. We could even change money to be certificates of appreciation for well-being. So insofar as that product or service, right, could promote well-being. Now we'd have to create some objective, standard of well-being, or at least insofar as we could agree, some objective standard of well-being that if the product or service promoted a well-being on some level for the body and mind of a person, of a human being, then that would be, then that would cost, right, prices would be relative to the amount of well-being they give people. So for example, let's say there is, like with food that is actually good, right? And the better and better the food gets, the more the more money it costs, or the more, certificates of appreciation for your well-being you give it. And let's say there's, McDonald's, right? McDonald's is taxed, and so it's not even available. We don't have the profit motive. The companies actually get paid more by the government and, tax, write-offs, etc., based on the amount of well-being they provide. So we should have an economic system where the government subsidizes companies based on the amount of well-being they provide to other people. And I think if this was the incentive, now the details are, right, I haven't fully fleshed out the details of how the system would work, but if we could have a system where we are rewarded, or essentially for, like, we could call them good boy points, right? If our money is basically good boy points for being good to others, you are, given money, then we'd have the incentive would be to be a good person. So ordinary folk would be incentivized to be a good person. And that would just cause more good people on average, even if they're the most greedy individual. If they're rewarded for causing well-being to others, then we're good, because they're causing tons of well-being to others, being greedy. So that works. That's like doable. That is the way better system than what we have now on a profit motive. So this is kind of my solution. This is, I'm just an ordinary dude, just living life, just, Jay chilling in existence. But my theory on how we solve, society right now in America is we have a well-being based economy. The more well-being you produce other people, the more money you get. And the more tax write-offs you get, and the less well-being, like companies that sell like nicotine products or like, cigarettes, 99% tax. McDonald's, 90% tax. Who else? Oil companies for the environment, 90% tax. Companies that help the environment, 90% tax write-offs. They're good to go. Companies that, what's it called? You give medicine to people that absolutely need it. Yeah, 90% tax write-offs. They're producing well-being. So basically, we would just have an economy that only is rewarded if you're good to people. If you're good to people, and there's things that are pretty, I'd say, ubiquitously understood to be good to people. Right? Medicine when you need it. Healthcare, food that's healthy, like shelter that's, like suitable and makes people happy, right? I think if we could do that, I think if we, gave people the things that were good for them and promoted that in the government, right? At least the things we can agree upon. Okay, maybe there's still luxury items or something, who knows? But at least in terms of like well-being, the cure to America, as it is now, is a well-being based economy. That is my theory. Just a totally random dude to you, at least on the internet. And you can disagree, agree, leave your thoughts down below. This has just been a theory that has been cooking up in the old domer, the old brain of mine for a while, and I'd be curious what you all think. So God bless and have a wonderful day.